New to Medicare? Start now. Go to myhealthpolicy.com to learn about some of the top-rated Medicare Advantage plans in your area, including plans for $0 a month in plan premiums, low out-of-pocket costs, and expansive provider networks. If you're thinking about a Medicare Advantage plan, myhealthpolicy.com is a great place to go to find a plan that meets your needs. Learn more about your options. Even talk with a licensed insurance agent. myhealthpolicy.com.
Hello and welcome to Audio Gyan. Today we have Subramanya Sharma with us, who works in ClearTrip as a CMO. Thanks, Subha, for being on the show. Can you just start by introducing yourself?
Thanks, Kedar. This is Subha here. Been working with ClearTrip for now 10 years. I started off to head products, and in the last 4 years, I'm also taking care of marketing. So right now at ClearTrip, I take care of product marketing and analytics. That's what I do. And before this, primarily from a product management background, Yahoo, Nokia, Siemens. And love technology. Passion is to build great products.
So thank you. So the first thing which I wanted to ask you is, what is the difference between the actual Silicon Valley and the Indian Silicon Valley, probably, which is in Bangalore right now? So how would you, what are the differences you see in these two startup culture areas?
Okay, let me take 2-3 different views, but or perspectives. One specifically from a product building standpoint, right? So a lot of the products that, meaning generally what we see from the Valley, I think a lot of it are thought through, designed well, product managed well. You can see nuances of product management in some of these products, right? So the spit and polish is like very good. Coming to our own products being shipped here, I think there's a lot of areas where you cannot take certain things for granted, right? For example, payment failures. Now, you would not even work on some of these as a core area when you're probably working in the Valley, right? So be it CRM systems, you want to build something specific for your kind of use case, taxation, different types of taxation that is there across states. So a lot of time is also spent in, from a product standpoint, is being spent on areas which you would not typically would want to or is required to be spent on, right? So you would rather focus a lot of effort on the consumer and what you want to ship, right? So here, because obviously you have those unknowns which are not directly related to core consumer experience, but it's part of the consumer experience, you need to kind of spend effort, and hence probably the time you will have and the effort from a resource standpoint to kind of work on core consumer thing and ability to kind of ship them is probably low, right? That's at a overall level, right? Also, the spit and polish that is required to be done, I think you're okay with probably 80% of the product being ready, right? As in, if it satisfies 80% of the criteria that you want to build, you will probably take a decision to ship, right? Which is, when you're ClearTrip, we always have this saying that the last 20% takes half the time to build as the first half, right? So the last 20% is where the core nuances of the product will come in, and those are things which probably get compromised because of time and all that, right? And last, I think in terms of the more probably also startup entrepreneurs also, and because of pressure from investors, there's a lot of focus on growth, right? So you need to have, your revenue numbers or user numbers, monthly growth, week on week growth. And if so much of focus is there on growth, you will, meaning entrepreneurs probably tend to prioritize things which are probably slightly more short term rather than probably mid to long term, right? So that's something that just think from what I see here, like the quality of products, I think can be much, much more better. Like the idea is great, but when you start to use the product, we just feel that it could be like probably 3x better than what it is, right? So yeah, probably some product.
So, does it have to do with any infrastructure thing in terms of the government giving some uh, facilities or any?
Yeah, I think, yeah, not so much on the infra side, but I think it's also, you need like a few success stories which are like very focused on product which has been successful in this market as well, right? Like in the last few years, we also seen that the focus on discounting has been so much that the core value proposition of what the product delivers, right? It's kind of moved from product to like discounting, right? So when that happens, meaning I've seen like a lot of companies spend a lot of their creative time to figure out how I can maximize discounting products, right? Meaning if a lot of time is being spent on those type of problem statements, then you will probably have the outcome which we are seeing now, right? So I think it's more uh, with some things that I talked about in terms of investors or hunger for growth. And once somebody sees like 2, 3 good uh, success stories like coming out with pure play product, with product being like a huge uh, success focus area for the success of that company, I think then some of this will change, right? Right now, I think a lot of the focus is still on discounting, market share, those type of problem statements.
Cool. So the second question is actually on the same lines, which is what do you think are the 3, 4, I don't know how many parameters, but yeah, as less factors to be considered while building a product? What do you think are the most crucial factors?
I think the core, meaning figuring out the core problem statement, right? In whichever product feature, whatever you're building, what is that one word or one line thing that you're trying to solve with that particular product or feature, right? Because you will have a lot of bells and whistles around the problem statement itself, right? So ability to crystallize all of that and saying that this is the core of the product that I am building, right? So identification of the core is super important. And once you identify the core, solving that core to the core, right? Like making sure that you solve that so well that whenever a consumer uses that particular feature, he will be uh, he'll be wowed with that kind of a product, right? So the core and solving the core to the nth detail in terms of everything that can be solved for that particular core itself, right? And these are, I think, two critical areas in terms of, I think, required for meaning any good product. The last one, which I think is
Sorry, I want to cut you here. So once you, even if you identify the core problem to be solved, there's a lot more competition in the market. So how does one like tackle that and also stay focused on your problem rather than competing or trying to be like in par with the competitors?
so, meaning I think once you have a slight understanding of what your consumers are, meaning one classic mistake which everybody does is assuming that all consumers are there in all sites, right? Which means that if you're trying to build a uniform solutions for everybody, right? So which is not necessarily the case. So if you have a good understanding of what your users are, meaning then while competition is important to kind of have a good view, but you're building it more from an absolute standpoint, saying that your consumers, will it work for them, right? So which is where I think, meaning one of the examples which I frequently quote is our mobile web kind of product that we wanted to build, right? This was in early 2010. And when we started, meaning we didn't have, meaning nobody had like a great mobile web presence world over, right? So when we wanted to build, like we said, we had a hypothesis, right? And we said, who's this guy who will use a mobile web? somebody who's on the move. So if somebody is on the move, time is of essence. Then you have constraints of screen size. So once you have like a kind of a use case saying that, yeah, you have constraints of screen size, you have constraints of bandwidth, you have constraints of time. Now, what is the product that you want to build, which makes sense, right? Then we said time. Time is of essence, and hence, how can you build a product which is can do a transaction in half the time that of the desktop, right? So half became, in some sense, your one line or one word kind of a definition for the product that you're building, right? So we went across stripped forms, improved performance, introduced expressway, did whatever it takes to solve for that use case hugely, right? So, and once you know that for that use case you have solved well, then hopefully you'll get enough traction for that particular user set, which will probably like that, right? And one last thing, we talked about 2 or 3 attributes. Like when I initially joined, meaning when I started my career on product management, I was always of the view that you build great products, like users will come, right? Like I think in the last 3-4 years, I've also realized that finding a good product marketing fit for your product, right? Like even if this feature is for example, frequent flyers, right? Like now ability to use it and target that particular segment with communication, acquisition, etc. is equally important as well, right? You need a critical mass of people who will vouch for your product. Word of mouth will happen. Meaning the core marketing is word of mouth, right? Everything else is to basically the core marketing function, like as a function itself is to get trial, right? But from our school of thought, like product is your main marketing channel, right? So if you get enough critical mass, then the product will have enough word of mouth which can sell itself, right? So which means that all of this needs to be integrated into the thinking rather than you first come out with a product, then think about product marketing. If you kind of integrate it well, probably the chances of success are much, much more.
Cool. That's quite interesting. In fact, I would like to just conclude with one last question. Since you mentioned about finding the right product fit and the right kind of focus to have a better product, then any tips or suggestions from your experience that how do you hire great product managers? Because like product managers, I believe are the soul to handle the product. They have like huge responsibilities right from the user facing to the back end. So it's like the works, right? So any tips you would like to give to our listeners in terms of how do you hire good product managers at different levels? Again, considering the Indian context.
Yeah, I've been probably hiring. I would have hired 40, 45 product managers in the course of the last 10 years, right? So yeah, meaning in ClearTrip, we have a joke that this is the third batch, this is the fourth product manager batch. I think when we started off hiring for product, there were very less product folks itself in the market, right? So which means that we had to groom people for product management itself, right? So at a basic, very, very abstract level, I think to simplify things, like you have on two attributes on the axis, right? You have creativity and you have execution. So you need to find somebody who kind of can do a bit of both. So what we kind of put out a process is, at least at junior levels, we had like a very, very, very analytical kind of case study, which was number oriented. So had like lots of numbers, and then the ability to abstract insights from that data, right? So you just give so much of data that you will probably try to confuse him, but if the guy is able to derive insights, then you understand that the guy can make sense out of ambiguity, right? So, and which is where like a lot of product folks in their operational day-to-day jobs will, every decision you will not have black and white, right? So ambiguity is like the name of like, is a huge part of the product role, right? So that's the first thing to just make sure that these guys are comfortable with um, the analytical part of it, right?
Those are hygiene things, bro.
Yeah, hygiene, right? Then after that, what we do is we have a case study, right? Which is a problem statement which we would have encountered or which we are having at that point in time, and ability to kind of come up and solution this, right? So saying that either if I want to reduce the friction in say hotels, right? In my hotel booking experience, what should that experience be like, right? Now, depending on the level at which you are hiring, meaning initially you will what you want to gauge there in the output is practicality, execution, and the bigness of the ideas itself, right? Like, are they thinking very, very, meaning change the color of the button versus something more fundamental, right? So, based on the level, you want to gauge the understanding of practicality versus bigness of the idea, right? So, and also ability to think more platform, right? Like, can I, if somebody asks for a specific use case, can I build it in such a way that it can support 10 use cases, right? Platform thinking. So the case study is a good tool, and it kind of, we gauge both on the execution front. Ability to work with engineering is a big thing, right? Like, if engineers and designers, your ability to make sure you can influence them, though they are not directly reporting to you, and gain their credibility is very important, right? So that's a lot of those factors on the execution side, right? So a great product, you cannot get it done without having a rock solid engineering team and a design team. So if, for example, you shipped something and something is screwed, right? They need to have, you need to have their support to fix stuff in the next, 24 hours, right? So you need like a lot of that credibility building on the execution side to even gain expertise in building great products, right? So on the creativity side, figuring out like prioritization, understanding problem statement at different levels, and saying that this is a big thing, this is a small incremental things. How do you kind of combine big and small? I think a case study is a good tool to kind of figure. And in the first 15 product guys or 10 product guys we hired, like nobody was from a product background itself. So somebody came from a advertising agency kind of background, somebody came from a business analyst. So we were also fortunate to kind of widen the scope very early on. And because when I looked at people with product manager titles and the quality of thinking, I was very, very disappointed, right? So we said we cannot rely on this alone. And I don't think it's completely solved today as well. Like somebody who's been a product manager, if that guy, if you have to really contribute, you need like 2-3 years in a company to kind of derive insights, understand consumers, right? So we are, unfortunately, even when we are hiring, we are not able to find product managers who have worked in fast-paced environments, having worked with slightly longer gestation periods. Like you get 1 year, 2 years, which is too less a time to. And if you have like had 3 jobs in 6 years or 5 years, it's very hard to get the insights part, because you have to see it over time. You did this, things happened, you did something else. So learnings happen over time, right? So I think these are the things that probably useful to hire product managers.
So is domain expertise required there?
I mean, personally, I'm not a big believer in domain expertise, because if you're sharp and if you're, we usually hire generalists for product positions, and if you're a sharp generalist, I think you would tend to pick up domain much faster, right? I don't come from a travel background, but maybe in 6 months I was pretty much aware of what's happening in travel, right? Unless the product is so specialized that it requires domain expertise, right? Like some of the finance, right? There's a great example, right? Like mutual fund algorithms and all that. Then you need like to suggest a mutual fund. Like you need expertise, right? But broader consumer-facing retail, I think, is probably not as important than like these skill sets.
So one last question, it's actually a bonus which I thought of just now, is that I've worked in an agency background before. So there, typically designers tend to not criticize, but generally crib about the client servicing people. And like in the past 6-7 years being in the product environment, I've seen a similar pattern, but with slightly, this happens with the product managers. Like, and what do you think is the reason for that?
I think I'm not answering this in the Cleartrip context, but I think as at the end of the day, the product guy is somewhat like a CEO of the company, right? He's responsible for that product. So a CEO will take decisions which are, meaning not everybody is happy, right? So you will take decisions in the interest of shipping, time to market. So you will probably not, and you will probably also say no. Like your default answer is no to everybody, right? Because if you say yes, then you are not a product manager, right? So as a character itself, these are the things that will surround him, right? So you will be unpopular, meaning as if you are a very popular product guy, then you should have built credibility in building products, right? Which then it's a different problem, as in different type of use case. But otherwise, you are always in the path of somebody else's perfect job, right? Like as a designer, I would want this to be 100% pixel perfect. As a product guy, I want this to be shipping on time with a reasonable product. As an engineering guy, I will want 0 bugs. As a product guy, I'll say, yeah, meaning if these 2 bugs are there, it's okay. So as a business guy, I will want these 10 features. As a product guy, I'll say these 9 are useless. This is the one feature which is important. So you're pretty much, because you're managing the product, you need to be accountable for that. So hence you are like, you should be saying a no a lot more times or take decisions which is not in the best interest of an individual silo. And hence you're probably not as popular as one would. There's a lot of glamour from outside, but at the end of the day, when you come in and start doing your work, it's like, yeah, you realize that it's not like the glamorous job that you thought it was from outside.
Thank you. That was really insightful. In fact, that can lead to a different conversation altogether, which probably we can have a different audio GAN session for that. Thank you, Subha, for being on the show. Hope you had a good time.
Yeah, thanks, Kedar. I mean, it's a good platform. I think hopefully this repository builds over time and it will be useful for the audience that you're building for, right? So all the best.
Thank you, Subha. And that's it from today's GAN session. Stay tuned for more audio GAN next week. Till then, bye.
I'm enrolling in Medicare soon, and it had me a little confused. Then I found myhealthpolicy.com. With myhealthpolicy.com, I could go online and compare Medicare Advantage plans from some top-rated national insurers, including $0 monthly premium plans. I can learn about plans in my area and talk with a licensed insurance agent if needed. myhealthpolicy.com has made doing my research a whole lot easier.
My choice, my Medicare, myhealthpolicy.com.